Wilson.
My mother walks into my brother's room, gets down on her knees, and in a pool of her own tears says, "Please forgive me for all the ways I failed you as a mother." My mother knew something that I didn't know and that none of her children knew. Have you ever met a light giver? Everyone has problems, but these people never show it. They're always too busy lighting up the world with their smile. That was my mother. But she made her fair share of light takers. So have you. Those are the people who try to dim our light with negativity. As you go through life, beware of the light takers. Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmaster, and welcome guests. My mother believed in two things: that everyone needs encouragement and there should never be an age limit on who receives it. She was the single mother, married twice, and I was the youngest of 5 little spotlights. She would use encouragement to help us believe in our light. She had 2 approaches to encouragement: sugar and salt. Sugar was her way of sprinkling light with compliments. Do you enjoy receiving compliments? Salt was being criticized. Now, who would want to have to go through that? When I was younger, I used to create my little inventions out of found objects and would show them to my mother to get a little sugar. She used to always say, "My baby's gonna be an engineer. Baby, your light will change the world. Believe in it." Now, I was a kid. I didn't know what believing in your light meant. But as I got older, and my friends started having more influence over me, every time I would share an idea, no one ever wanted to do it. I started to think maybe my ideas weren't that good. But my mother could see that my spark was gone and was always trying to find the words to ignite it again. And she would say, "Why are you always so busy trying to get your friends' approval in your ideas? Your light can change the world. Believe in it." I thought I'd just be honest. And I told her, "It's because I'm a people pleaser, Mom." She decided to be even more honest and said, "Why are you always so busy kicking yourself when there's so many people out there who are willing to do it for you?" My mother encountered so many light takers in her life. She didn't think that we should join them in being so hard on ourselves all the time. She would say that we were born to shine and that we can be so busy being negative that we can miss out on opportunities. As a teenager on age 14, I worked at a park. That morning I was cutting tree branches when I saw a bird's nest with eggs. I immediately started trying to figure out how to move the nest, but after about 10 or 15 minutes, I didn't want to be responsible just in case something went wrong. And my coworker was right over there. So I asked him to move the nest. He rushes past me and grabs the nest. He didn't care. When I got home, I told my mother the whole thing. And she says, "You were so busy putting your opportunity into someone else's hand. That was your moment to shine. Your light could change the world. Believe in it." I tried, but I'm not like her. She could walk into a room and light it up with her smile. I wasn't like her. That day that she went into my brother's room and apologized for all the mistakes she made as a parent, the next day my brother calls me. What? She's gone? My mother knew that her light was on borrowed time. And she was so busy giving it that nobody knew. Years later, when I became a parent, I understood why she said those words to my brother that day. When we become responsible for someone who has potential, we always whether we pushed them too hard or not hard enough. I started believing in my light because when someone takes their time and pours light into you, shouldn't we do something with it? That's why I'm here right now, to pour my mother's light into you so that you could believe in your light. Believing in your light is being so busy valuing the gifts that we were born with that we don't have time for overthinking, negative thoughts, and light takers, even if that light taker is you. We have to stop holding ourselves back for the moment an opportunity is right in front of us. When we feel that no building up inside, give yourself permission and say, yes, prove them wrong. Your light could change the world. Believe in it. The next time those negative thoughts try to creep back in again, you just tell them that you're too busy being you. Madam Contest Chair.
Thank you very much, Jason. Please let me apologize. I'm so glad your microphone and everything, sound and everything was working. I didn't give you a chance to give it a test before I dove right in because I wanted to hear you speak. So now I'm going to ask our timer to give us 2 minutes for our evaluators to prepare their evaluations, and then we'll come back in with 3 evaluators and the round robin. Thank you, Jason.
That's 2 minutes, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Madam Timer, ME. And now I will ask our first evaluator to come up to the camera and the microphone. Abhijit will start us off with the visual evaluation.
Thank you, Jason, for giving us an opportunity to do an evaluation. Jason, the first thing I liked as soon as you came on the stage is your demeanor. I felt it was so pleasant. That smile, it just opened my heart. So there are so many good things about your speech. Here are few of them. The first thing I said, I felt you were able to convey the emotions through your facial expressions. The pain you felt. When you felt the pain, I felt that pain. I felt that was very effective. The other things which I really enjoyed is you had some very fast movements. He rushed past me. The way you moved, it just caught me by surprise. So it helped me to keep a watch on you or kept my attention on. I also enjoyed your gestures about the thing which your mom said, that it will change the world. So that's something which is imprinted on my brain. Now, there are few things you could do to take your speech visually to the next level. Props. The one thing I felt when you said mother's light, if you had a candle with a lit candle, that would make it so impactful. So having that prop will take your speech to the next level. Now, some small things. With your background, especially on this side of yours, make it plain because it's a little bit folded, little bit there. So if you can be plain, that will make it like, okay, our attention will be just on you. Okay. And as visually, I also have to comment on your attire. I love the way you are dressed. Then make sure that your shirt is completely ironed because it should have no folds, nothing like that. Um, One thing I felt is when you're doing gestures, your gestures are very effective, but when you started your speech, you were moving a lot. So if you can just be stationary and move only when you are making a point, that becomes very, very powerful. Okay. Your eye contact became better in the later half. In the first half, if you can have just focus on the camera lens, that will make it very effective. Okay. To summarize, some small things to make your speech more effective visually: having a candle as a prop, um, having your background nice and plain and ironed, having your shirt also well ironed, that will make it very effective. Gestures, not to have the movement gestures, having very still. Things you did very effectively. The first thing was your demeanor when you came on the stage. Your facial expressions just conveyed all the emotions, and your brisk body movements conveyed the point which you were trying to make. I wish you all the best. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
All right, thank you, Abhijit, and I'll ask Judy Stein to come up with the vocal evaluation.
Hello, Jason. I enjoyed this speech. Your light can change the world. I didn't watch your speech at all. I tried to listen instead. I have to say that you have a very steady, easy voice to follow. I didn't get lost anywhere. I didn't have questions anywhere. And I found that really refreshing because I could follow it. You had questions to the audience with a nice inflection, and you had several questions, and I felt brought in when you asked questions. And something else I really liked, I liked your dialogue with your mother. I thought that was effective. And towards the end, you had more vocal variety. You came alive vocally towards the end. The bird nest with eggs, say yes, prove them wrong, believe in you. That all came alive. And I sort of missed that at the start. So a suggestion would be to find some places to add a little more emphasis, a little more vocal variety in the beginning. I did want to mention something else I thought was you did really well, was when your brother called to say that she's gone, your silence there fit emotionally with the words that were said. Very nice. Just a few things to recommend. I know for me, it would add more to your speech. One, your mom's voice is different than yours. I want to make it more so, just a little more different. Anytime you talked from your mom's voice, I think I said this, it was more enthusiastic. It was encouraging. There was vocal variety. There was emotional tone. So your mom had all those feelings and tones and vocal variety. And that's what I want you to bring in a little more when you're talking about your experiences. Not everything has to be bright. I'm not saying that. Just a little more. So in summary, I thought it was a well done speech, easy to follow. You have a very nice voice. You ask questions to bring me in. That moment of silence touched my heart. And touched my heart. I want a little more vocal variety. Give your mom a little more. Give your mom a little different voice. Her vocal variety is great. And finally, I think one of the things I liked best was at the end when there was all that energy. Say yes, prove them wrong, believe in you. And I sat here and I actually got some chills, and that was my favorite part. So thank you very much, Jaison.
Thank you, Judy. And next, we're wrapping up the formal evaluations will be Sandra Cole with the content evaluation.
Thank you, Toastmaster Elena. Jaison, what a pleasure to be your content evaluator at our club tonight. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your amazing speech with me and your audience. I'd like to congratulate you on an excellent, it's just simply outstanding International Speech Contest theme. I would guess that absolutely everyone could relate to your topic, to that little tap on the shoulder, that inner voice going in our ear saying, you can't do that, and how your mother was the encourager. And I love that you associated that with sprinkling sugar and also the way of use of salt too, that she was always there giving encouragement as the light giver in your life, and I would well guess in everyone's life that she touched. So thank you so much for sharing that with me. It was just really a pleasure listening to you. I love that you opened with some dialogue. It is engaging. It draws me into your story and into your content as you go throughout your speech. I also thought you used a pause well, especially when your brother phoned to tell you that your mother passed. That was heart-wrenching. It brought the emotion into me, and you did that magnificently. Thank you for that. And Jaison, I would like to compliment you, because although you felt for many years that you were not a light giver, you really are. You gave me light tonight, and I thank you for that. Some ways that might strengthen your speech even further, at least for me and your audience, in my opinion, I'm going to ask you this. Is there a way that you could include perhaps further dialogue into your speech and into your story, to use dialogue to move the story along? Maybe some dialogue with your mother. And how could you possibly make that somehow go full circle? Because you opened with dialogue. Is there some way that you could build some dialogue into your closing to move that story along, and also the point of your speech. Your foundational phrase, is that the title of your speech? Your title was Your Life Can Change the World. I know that you came into that and restated that early on. Is that your foundational phrase? Then is there a way to keep bringing it forward throughout your speech and again at the end? What can you leave with me, your very, very last words that makes me remember the specific words of that foundational phrase? Is there a way that it could end on that foundational phrase? That's just something that I thought of that you might want to consider. You can play with it and see if it works for you or not. I'd like to see a bit longer pause at the end of some of the questions. You did it so extremely well with your brother when he called, and you let that soak in. But when you asked me a question in the audience, a couple times you did ask several questions throughout, which is engaging. I love that. But a couple times I would have liked a bit longer pause for myself to think through that question and to really bring me in even closer with you in your speech. Overall, I would like to say that again, Jaison, you brought the light tonight. In general, you were very engaging with your questions. Overall, good use of pause, but perhaps to reflect more of that as a bit longer to some of the questions, bringing your foundational phrase all the way to the very end of your speech, and to perhaps engage a further dialogue in various ways in your speech. But again, you had incredible presence. Your structure overall was excellent. It moved your message throughout your speech. You are the light giver. Oh, and one more thing. Is there a way that you could use the opposite of that, light taker? So we have the light taker. Are you a light taker or are you a light giver? Just one more thought that came to me right now. But thank you so much, Jaison. I do wish you well, and congratulations on an excellently constructed speech, Madam Toastmaster.
All right, thank you to all of our formal evaluators, and now we will have time for a round robin. If the timer will give us 5 minutes and just show me the red, show us the red when we get to 5 minutes. I'm going to, I think, Hazel, do you have something for Jaison? Yes. I will start in the room with me. Hazel has some comments for Jaison.
Am I on the Zoom? Hello. Hey, Jaison. So thank you so much. I loved how you began and then you circled around. So you both times you started with saying, please forgive me for all the ways I failed you as a mother. Now, as a mother of 4 grown children, I can totally relate to all the ways that I failed you as a mother. I had a little trouble making out when you talked about being beware of a light. And I was like, is it a light dimmer? Is it a light stealer? So I want to make sure that that word is really super clear in my ears, and that creates the contrast. I noticed the title says that your light can change the world. And throughout your speech, I found you using that foundational phrase, but with a different little verb in there. Sometimes it was can and sometimes it was will. So maybe make those more consistent. I love the explanation of sugar and salt for compliments versus criticisms. And I like the way that you explained yourself. Well, you know, my spark was gone, so I was looking out there for friends to approve of me because I'm a people pleaser, and that did not set well with your mother. And why kick yourself when you're down when there are so many other people to do it for you? I caught that very clearly. Now, when you talked about your brother recognized that her light was on borrowed time, but then you said that other people didn't really see that. So that felt like a little bit of a conflict to me, like your brother could see it, but it wasn't clear to anyone. your take on being a parent, that when you become responsible for someone else's potential, how you show up differently. But then you said, I'm here to give you my mother's light. And I really felt like, I want you to be here passing that legacy on, that you're giving me your light. You're shining into me, not so much that it's a second or third generation down. I loved how you had a very consistent use of passion and gestures, and it was very clear that this message is coming from your heart. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hazel. Now, if you'll raise your hands, I will call on anyone else who has a comment to make. Karen King.
Jason, when I heard the title of your speech and also the way you worked with the comments that your mother made about the light and everything, I thought of a song. And this song might help you come up with something that would add even more spice to your already well done speech. And that is, there's a song, it's called This Little Light of Mine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna make it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna make it shine. If you get that going on in the back of your head, I think it's going to help you get even more deep, or you find yourself going more deeply into the spirit of your speech. I enjoyed it very much. And I thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Karen. Who else would like to contribute to this? Abhijit, you have more comments. Great.
Yes. Jason, when you start your speech, I want you to pause before you start, because it draws everyone's attention. And smile and then start. It creates a big impact. Back to you, Elena.
Thank you, Abhijit. Anyone else? Anyone else? Jason, do you have any questions for our evaluators about anything they offered to you?
No, just everything you said was incredibly clear, and very much. I mean, that's why I came here. It's great to be given the amount of feedback that I have been given. You know, I practiced the speech in several clubs, so it's nice to get the array of feedback to help me make the speech more dimensional overall. And so
I'm glad, Jason. It looks like we've got one more comment from Emmy.
I just have a quick comment that when after your mother passed, you had this choked up sound in your voice. And it sounded like, you know, you were really feeling that, but I didn't see any evidence of that on your face. So there was a disconnect between how you were feeling maybe and what was actually showing on your face. So if you could just watch yourself and see if you think that's so. I don't know.
But you also kept facing to the side, and so there was sort of a limitation maybe on what we were seeing. And that to me, because it lasted and you looked, and then you looked, and what I translated that into was more like a disbelief. But it's possible that, yeah, working on the facial piece to make sure that we're getting the consistent message.
Yeah, well, Jason, perhaps you hadn't planned on choking up, and that may have just been happening and you were trying to cover it as well. So maybe just go with it. And I think it'll be a very effective speech. Thank you for sharing that, with giving us the opportunity to help you with it tonight. And very good luck at your district contest coming up soon. And Jason, will you be able to stay for the rest of this meeting?
Oh, yeah, of course, I wouldn't miss it.
Hey, fantastic. So wonderful. I'm so glad you will. So we are so pleased that tonight our next speaker is one of our newer members of Professionally Speaking, Judith Ferber, and she is Well, we're all veteran Toastmasters, so we very seldom come around to the icebreaker again. So tonight, she's not doing an icebreaker, but she will tell us a little bit about herself. It looks like, at least I've got some information here for you. Judith Ferber is a distinguished Toastmaster and has been a Toastmaster for approximately 13 years. And during this time, she's held numerous leadership positions, including chairing the Youth Leadership Program for 2 years. Good work. Tonight's speech is about what motivates her to move on. Please welcome Judith Ferber with her speech. What's next? What's next? Judith Ferber.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters. September 15th, 2019 started out just like any other day until I went down to collect my mails. And as I opened the box, the mailbox, there was a package. And there was a letter from Toastmaster International. I immediately opened the box and the letter, and the box was these wonderful Distinguished Toastmaster plaque. And there was a letter. Dear Toastmaster Ferber, Distinguished Toastmaster recognition is the greatest honor that can be earned. And as I was reading this letter, the last paragraph in this letter was, I am delighted to recognize you as a distinguished Toastmaster. I was expecting this to come, but I was very surprised it got here so quickly. And not only that, but my reaction. I became very emotional. And the first thought that came to my mind as I was standing at the mailbox is when I first joined the club, Professional Women Toastmasters here in Los Angeles. And my mentor, Pat Allison, we stayed friends for so many years. She passed away a few years ago. And I thought she would be so proud that I achieved this highest honor in this organization. As I was walking upstairs to my apartment, I was thinking about my Toastmaster journey. I never wanted to be a distinguished Toastmaster. All I wanted to do is to learn how to give presentation, to speak, so I can do various presentations about skincare at spas and women organization, how women could better care for their skin, teach in schools, which ultimately I did. So I was thinking about this, and then how I was recruited to become a youth leadership chair, which I reluctantly agreed. I am a one-person owner-operator of my business. I never wanted to be a leader of anything. But my friend said to me, just do it, and I will help you to do it. I did. It was really one of the best 2 years, I think, in my Toastmasters journey. As I was thinking about this, I called my friend, my best friend who lives in Melbourne, Australia. And I told her what happened, what I received in a mail. She was very pleased. She congratulated. And then she said, okay, so what's next? You have to be she asked me, you have to be in a Toastmaster organization forever? You know how to speak? You've been there for 10 years? Frankly, I couldn't answer the question. I have been thinking about this myself. What do I do next? What happened next is COVID. COVID has changed my life in a Toastmaster and hundreds of others. There was Zoom. We have to learn how to use Zoom. And then I visited hundreds of so many Toastmaster clubs around the world with many, many other people. I kept seeing them every which way. And it gave me a little shot on the arm, just some enthusiasm again. And it was really wonderful to meet people, whether I was in Riyadh or Sweden and Germany and England and Russia and everywhere. I'm learning a lot from other Toastmasters, how they run their meetings. I brought back various ideas to the Toastmaster clubs I was a member of. But I still wasn't sure what I really want to do. I've been offered various positions and by the trio in District 1, and I wasn't really interested in those. And then I decided I'd become a coach to an ailing Toastmaster club. And during that time, I visited another club called Leaders Worldwide. Leaders Worldwide had a very interesting program of speechcraft, which they have incorporated in their meetings. I knew some about speechcraft, but they have improved a great deal of the Toastmaster International program. So I decided to do a speechcraft program at the club I was coaching. Quite successfully, we have added 5 new members. And then I decided what I really will do, and I want to do, and I am doing, is to become a speechcraft coordinator at District 1. This is something that interests me. I get excited about getting non-Toastmaster people into this program, which I believe has certainly helped me a great deal. And what's next? That's what's next. Who knows what happens next? I am about to finish the 3rd pass in this program, and I'm hoping maybe in a year or so, I may get another letter from Toastmaster International and congratulating me of achieving another DTM. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Judith. And now I will ask our timer, Emmy, to give us 2 minutes on the clock for our evaluators to prepare their evaluations. 2 minutes of silence. Thank you, Madam Timer. All right, our evaluators will be Hazel Booth for the manual, and she will then introduce Abhijit Joshi, who will give us the visual. Abhijit will please introduce Sneha Sharma, who will give the vocal. And Sneha, if you would be able to introduce Karen King, because she will give us the content evaluation, okay? And if anyone needs a reminder, I can step in. So first, we have Hazel Booth in the room with me with the project evaluation. And once you start speaking, Hazel, I will come right to you.
Awesome. Hey, Judith, thank you so much for that speech. As a new member of Professionally Speaking, even though it wasn't an icebreaker, it definitely gave us an insight into your capabilities and your journey and what kind of passion lights you up and motivates you to make choices. I think in your introduction, Elena said something about what motivates you to move on. And so I'm doing your manual evaluation, shuffling all these papers here. I do feel that you speak very clearly and you make your point. I didn't have any trouble, even when we have different accents between us, but I was still able to clearly follow your verbiage. Your tone and your pace are very clear, and your eye contact is excellent. It felt to me like you were tuned in to your audience and comfortable sharing with us about your experience. My perception of your speech is that it started back in September of 2019, and I had not gotten a DTM, so it was great for me to have that little bird's eye view of seeing your excitement and enthusiasm for receiving that. So I appreciate you sharing that, because that could just spur me on to say, I want one of those letters and plaques and badges, that it is the greatest honor that could be earned. That gave me a vicarious moment of experiencing what that was for you. And I really appreciated seeing your experience with the Professional Women Toastmasters, your pride with your mentor, your single woman owner, operator of your business, and how COVID really did propel you into the next phase with Skillcraft. It felt very much to me, though, like it was a historical looking back, because 2019, that's almost 4 years ago. And so when I looked at the manual, and I saw that you're going to deliver a speech sharing a plan that you're going to implement for a new vision, I kept watching. It says, this is history. She's going to tell me the new thing. And when we got to the end, it's like, who knows what's next? So I feel like there could be just a little bit more of an emphasis on the vision that you're creating, which it looks like it may very well have to do with this speechcraft that you, and we may have a use for that even in this club. We might tap in and say, wow, we've talked about doing a little speechcraft here. So that could be another place. So I appreciate your openness and you're like, what's the universe have for me? But I'd also like to see this speech be a little bit more geared towards a vision that's lighting you up right now. Thank you so much.
And next we have.
And Abhijit now will be visual. Thank you.
Judith, I loved learning about your journey in Toastmasters. Here are some of the observations which I did as I'm doing the visual evaluation. The first thing, I feel the biggest asset you have is how you communicate with your eyebrows, the way they move. I love it. You make that point with your eyebrows. So that is something which I always enjoy watching. I enjoyed that you are using that prop as the letter, and that was very effective. Initially it was below, but then when you brought it up, it created that impact. And at the end, again, you brought it back. So it was a kind of a full circle. So thank you for using that prop effectively. Your blue was a perfect, pleasing attire. And when you're standing up and presenting, it brings in that energy, which makes us, which inspires us to keep attention on what you are saying. So here are a few things which I observed. The first thing is when you started out, some of the hands were below, because they were coming here, but it was like this. We could not see what was happening. So just stay a little bit back. That will help us tremendously. Another thing I observed is, I really enjoyed the gesture when you said we got the 5 members we needed, but sometimes you had mirror gestures. So my mentor says, try to avoid mirror gestures. Use one hand at a time. And then if you're done, then use the another hand. It creates more impact. I loved your eye contact after the later part in the speech, after 2 or 3 minutes. But initially, sometimes you would look down. That would lose my connection. I would lose that stage presence. So I encourage you to just keep your eye contact with the lens. One thing I observed is sometimes you have this tendency of having a back and forth movement. What my mentor said is just put your feet on the ground and only move when you want to create that impact. To summarize, things you can do to make your speech more effective: have your camera set up in such a way that we can see all your gestures. Have a very good eye contact in the starting of your speech. Avoid the back and forth movements. Things you did very effectively: your facial expressions, using your eyebrows, the prop, the letter of as the prop was used effectively. I loved your attire, and standing up and presenting created that energy. I look forward to making sure that you get that second letter in the next few years. Let me call upon Sneha to do the next evaluation. Sneha, it's all you.
Thank you so much, Abhijit. Judith, it was interesting to note how an icebreaker from a DTM who has 10 years of experience would look like. And it was very interesting, the pathway that you shared from
It's not an icebreaker. This is a level 5.
Sorry, I got confused. I'm sorry. But it was still very interesting to note the journey that you took from an ordinary Toastmaster member to being a DTM. And it was very insightful. I have to evaluate you on the vocal variety. And I really loved the way you started off your speech on a very casual tone, that you said that it was just an ordinary day and I went out and opened the mailbox. And so that tone was really interesting to pull us into your story because it started on a casual note. Also, the pace that you kept throughout your speech was not very fast, not very slow. For people like us who have a different accent, it was easy to follow. Your voice is very clear. It has a very authoritative and different kind of clarity in your voice, which is, again, very simple to follow. When you spoke about, when you were reading out the letter and it said, I was delighted to announce, when you were reading that out, I felt there could have been a little more energy because that was a very important announcement for you for your Toastmaster journey. Also, when you mentioned about your mentor in Professional Women's Toastmaster who passed away, I felt there could have been a little more sadness added to the tone because you were carrying forward the same casual tone. I felt there could have been a little more sadness to it. When you said one of the best 2 years when your friend introduced you to a Toastmaster project, that was the enthusiasm I could actually feel in your voice. So that was a great variety that you added in your speech. I felt there could have been a pause because the only hurdle in your journey, in your speech, you mentioned was the time when you have achieved all the milestones and what to do next was your next question. So after that, there could have been a pause for us also to imbibe, what she might do. And also then you said that there was COVID. So even after that mention, there could have been a pause to make us apprehensive, what is she going to do next? And to picture your predicament. Then you mentioned about meeting different people, joining different meetings. So there was enthusiasm in your voice. And the slight chuckle that you gave towards the end when you said that the question was still there, what do I do next? So that chuckle and that spring in your voice when you said that I added 5 new people to the new club that I was coaching. So that spring in your voice, that was really, enhanced the impact of your message. So to conclude, I love the way you started off the speech. The pace was really great for us to understand. And there's clarity and authoritativeness in your voice. There could have been a little more energy at some places, a little more sadness to the tone. And there could have been pauses at 1 or 2 places when you mentioned about what to do next, the problem that you shared. I think otherwise the speech was very clear and easy to follow. Thank you so much. And I hand over the stage to Karen.
Thank you, Sharma. Judith, I really enjoyed your speech. It made me think a lot about my own journey. And that is the best way to organize a speech, is to go through this step-by-step process with, the ending being one of hope and promise and commitment. And I think we all need to hear that. Here in a club that has very mixed backgrounds, as far as, speaking experience is concerned, I think it's just absolutely inspiring to hear you share this message and to tell us how you found your way. Because there is an ultimate question after the DTM. Okay, what do I do now? And it took a while, as it has taken me. And I think that your transitions and the logical flow of your speech made it very clear the very steps you took and how you came to those decisions, because we don't always go straight to the point or straight to the next objective. Emerson, in his writings, talks about how our lives are like that of a sailboat, how we tack back and forth, but in the final end, there is a straight line that just looks, wow, that's it. That's how I got there. And I think too, that your commitment and your discovery, I would like to know, was incredible, but I would like to know just exactly what a speech craft coordinator is. That's a whole new term for me, because I have been out of the game for a while. And I think that's the only thing that I would suggest, is that you bring in some material that explains what your ultimate goal is and what you plan to do with it. Because we all eventually find our way. It sometimes takes years. I'm doing that now. So I could relate to everything that you were saying. Your excitement about seeing the letter. I remember when I got my DTM and put that plaque up on the wall of having a very similar experience. But still, there was that question, what do I do next? And for those of us here in your audience, I think your speech was most appropriate, because we are all wading through that right now by going on different pathways and going beyond DTMs and going to DTMs after many, many years of being in Toastmasters. And I think the only thing I could say is that I would like to have had just a little bit more of definition as to how you see your future. And that's the only critique that I can offer you. I thought I've been very impressed with you. I thought you have an ability to communicate, and you seem very comfortable with the Zoom backgrounds and all the things you have to do in Zoom. And so I just want to tell you, thank you. Thank you for sharing with us tonight.
Hey, thank you, Karen. And now we have 5 minutes for our round robin. I will look for hands raised. Or waves. No? All right. Well, I have one comment. I'll start out with something to do with content, Judith. I loved the whole speech. I enjoyed learning more about you, starting to get to know you. And I agree so much with the idea that we can develop wonderful friendships through Toastmasters. And you mentioned your very good friend, Pat, I believe Pat Allison, who passed away. The only thing I found with that was that was really all we learned about her and your friendship. So it was almost a little bit of a throwaway line in a way, even though I'm sure it's very significant to you. So either maybe develop that a little bit more, or save that story of that friendship for an entirely different speech. Because I agree, it's wonderful, the friendships you can develop in Toastmasters. And I always tell people that's one of the side benefits that no one expects when they enter. So I'm looking for a hand. I think Emmy is showing herself. So let's hear from Emmy.
Okay, thank you, Judith, for that actually very inspiring speech. And to go out and get your DTM. There was one point that I was a little confused at, or I kind of got led down the garden path a little bit. And that's when you were reading the letter, you'd gotten it in the mail and you're reading it. And what was going through my head was, maybe they sent it to the wrong person. I wasn't too sure if you were really supposed to get that letter or not. It just felt kind of like, oh, well, maybe she didn't do a DTM. It was a mistake. So I think I would have appreciated, just for myself, a little bit more enthusiasm about the DTM and getting the letter. And after all that work, I'm done. Yes. Or something to that effect. But thank you for that speech. I really did enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emmy. And I see Judy Stein has her hand up.
Thank you, Elena. Judith, well, I know you're there somewhere. I also enjoyed the speech, your speech. I loved the passion. There were so many points that passion came out. And it also, Emmy said, inspired. It inspired. I enjoyed that. You had a lot of information. It was fast with stories and history. Part of me, and I don't know, just part of me wonders, well, what if there was like one less story? So a little more time to soak up some of the other stories, because I found I wanted a little thinking time because it was so interesting and fascinating to me. So I wanted that little bit more time. That's really my only suggestion. And, that's for me. Thank you, Judith.
Thank you, Judy. Anyone else? We have time. And if we don't have any other comments, that's fine, because we can take our break now and come back in 5 minutes. How's that sound? Okay, so we'll come back at 7:37 plus 5 is 7:42 my time, 42 minutes after the hour. Do you need this? No, not usually. They can listen to us or ready.
Yeah, Emmy,
Okay.
you can put your hand down for this go
Oh,
round.
yeah. Emmy, put your hand down and Judy can put hers up. Okay, welcome back, everyone. And we are in the final stretch. The force is still with us, I believe. You know, let's gather our thoughts and give our full attention to our next speaker. That will be Linda Wu, who is working on the effective coaching pathway. And she has a speech for us tonight on the Connect with Storytelling project. Linda Wu says she would like to share her personal story with the audience and practice her storytelling skills. So Linda, a reminder that we just switched timers to Judy in the corner there, so you will look to her for your timing. All right. Okay. And I will now introduce you with your speech title. Linda Wu, Life Lessons I Learned Too Late. Life Lessons I Learned Too Late. Linda Wu.
Last April, I was at home, working on my computer, preparing for my examination and writing my paper. I got a call from my brother. Dad is in the hospital. He has a bone fracture. He broke his hip. I almost burst into tears. My mother died young. After that, my father hid his feelings and raised the three of us by himself. He never told us how hard it was, but I knew it was difficult for him. Now he's sick. I wanted to go back to my hometown to take care of him, but my brother stopped me. Don't do it. The COVID-19 is still spreading. You will be quarantined and you might get infected. It's dangerous for you. So I stayed home. But 1 week later, when my father was released from the hospital and nobody else was there to take care of him, I couldn't stay home anymore. I traveled 1,000 kilometers to my hometown. When I first saw my father lying on his bed, he was so fragile, so weak, so skinny. I was very sad. In my memory, he was the powerful, strong man who took good care of us. Now the roles reversed. As the strong daughter, it's my turn to take good care of him. So I took all the trouble to help him. I went to the market and carried heavy groceries by hand and walked home under the sun blaze every day. I had to write my paper on my mobile phone because there was no internet. I couldn't sleep well because of mosquitoes. But all of this were nothing comparing to getting along with my father. Dad, I cooked some food for you. Your food is no good. Dad, it's time to take pills. No. How can you recover without taking pills? Why do you try to get up? The doctor said you need to stay in bed. What do you need? The toothbrush? Here you are. I don't need you to do all this for me. Then it came the May holiday. Early in the morning, my father gave me a long list. You go to the market, buy some fish for your brother, buy some beef for your brother. All these are his favorite food. Go, go, go. Then my brother came. My father smiled towards him and ate the apple my brother bought for him. He never eat any apple I bought for him. Then the big family arrived. My favorite aunt was also here. I complained to my aunt about my father. Parents favor boys over girls. My father is the same. He likes my brother. He doesn't like me. It's a life lesson I learned too late. Why did I take all the trouble to take care of him? I'm going home tomorrow. You take a rest. Let me and your brother take care of him today. Before lunch, I saw my father smiling, talking happily with my aunt and my brother. Would you like to take some pills? No. Would you like to put the medicine patch on? Not today. It's lunchtime. Where would you like to sit? In the yard, under the tree. Okay, I will set up the table over there. They are treating my father the same way they did 30 years ago, as if he was still the powerful, strong man, the leader of the family. So, my father acted differently towards me and my brother, not because he is the son and I'm the daughter. It's because we treated him differently. I realized that even though my father was physically weak and fragile, mentally, he was still the powerful, strong man, the leader of the big family. So I changed my mind. I stayed and continued to take care of him until he fully recovered, and we get along very well. I respected him. I asked his opinion. I followed his instructions, just as I did 40 years ago.
Oh dear. Oh dear. I think she was, go ahead, Linda.
Back to the Toastmaster.
Okay, thank you very much, Linda. I think we might have just missed your finishing line, but you were well into getting to your conclusion. So we'll have 2 minutes of timing for our evaluators to prepare, and they will be Sneha Sharma with the manual project evaluation. Then she will introduce, well, followed by Amy Bartholomew with the visual, Abhijit Joshi with vocal, and Hazel Booth with content. So everybody get to it. Thank you, Madam Timer. So now it's my pleasure to introduce our first evaluator, Sneha Sharma, who will give us the project evaluation. Sneha.
Thank you so much. Linda, I truly enjoyed your speech. And the purpose of your pathway was to tell a story. It could be a fiction story or your original one. And I'm really glad that you chose a personal story to share, because I think we are the best storytellers when the stories are from our surroundings and we are the heroes of it. So I loved that format that you shared with us today. I enjoyed the structure that you started with a phone call and then you took us back into your relationship with your father and how he managed all the 3 kids single-handedly after your mother passed away. So I think that structure, that opening, and then that flashback, I thought that was a very good start of the speech. I also loved your facial expression. You know, you emoted so well through your eyes and through your, through your foreheads, the furrows that you were getting into your forehead when you saw your father after COVID and you saw how fragile he has become, how weak he has become. And then the frustration when he was not really listening to your requests of having pills and fruits, and he was preferring your brother more than you. So that frustration and that emotion that you brought, that was really fascinating. I also liked how you kept the sentences short, because I feel when you have a very strong accent, it happens with me also, I tend to elongate the dialogues. So when you keep them short, it becomes more understandable for people with different, language to follow and understand that. And this is something that I have learned from your speech. For the later half, the second half, when you were talking about the life lessons that you learned too late, that was one lesson that you thought that your father prefers your brother more than you. That was one life lesson. But because I think we lost the connection towards the end, I couldn't understand what was that other lesson? Maybe there was something else that you wanted us to take away home from your life. So I missed the conclusion part, and I felt that the second half could have taken more time in your speech, because that dramatization and that high point of your speech, the conflict, took most of the part. So maybe you might consider moving shifting the speech a little bit more towards the ending and making the conclusion a little longer, although I missed it. So overall, I loved the structure of your speech, the personal essay format that you brought. And I loved the structure. I loved the dialogues, which were very short and succinct. I also would suggest that you keep the second half a little longer and make the conclusion a little more, easy to take away home. So that is it. Back to the Toastmaster.
All right, and we have Emmy Bartholomew next with the visual evaluation.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, and thank you, Linda. That was a most interesting and touching speech. I wanted to say, first of all, how much I enjoyed that. And then I would like to tell you the things that I thought you did really well. And then I'm going to mention a few things that I think you could have improved on. So we'll start with your facial expressions. Your facial expressions were wonderful. They really showed what you were feeling. So when you were on the phone with your brother and your father has fallen, we could feel the impact that had on you, just through what was going on your face. So well done with that. You did some great gestures. I particularly liked the thinking one with the finger on the chin. That was lovely. You also had some wonderful body language and the eye contact. The eye contact was great. Now, there are a couple of things that I would like to see you do a little bit differently. Number one was the white top. The white top against the white background. You just kind of melded into the background. I love this orange scarf much better. I would like to have seen you wear that. The hand with some of your expressions were a little too low. So I caught the tops of your fingers rather than the whole hand. So what I would like to see you do is step back so that we can see you from this part up. And then we catch all of the hand gestures, not just the ones that are right up here. Okay. Then I wanted to say that the voice that your brother had and your voice, they weren't different, but we could tell they were different from where you were standing because you moved and you had the whole phone to your hand. But you could have given him a little more difference in the vocals. However, you did very well with your aunt because your aunt came up and she had this gentle voice and she persuaded you to wait, to give him another chance. And it felt like that gentleness that she used with you really helped. So kudos for that. I really enjoyed that. Then you were looking up and hitting mosquitoes, but we lost, something about when you looked up more than once. I don't remember the first one, but the second one was the mosquitoes. You were slapping mosquitoes. Well, I don't think you need to look away from us or to look up like that. I think you were speaking to someone the first time you did it. And it was like, well, who's up there? I don't know. So let's have purpose for when you look in a different direction. Okay. Other than that, I I think it was a wonderful speech. It was very well done. I loved most of your gestures. I would just like to have seen more of them. So in summary, step back from the camera so that you can be seen better. Make sure that your gestures are up where they need to be so that we can see them. In fact, I'm doing that too, because I should have stayed back here. But I can't see my notes from there. Okay. Thank you again for a wonderful speech, Linda. And I'm now going to turn this over to Abhijit. It's all yours, Abhijit.
Thank you. Linda, your speech immediately transported me to my current situation with my dad. When I look at him, I see him so fragile, so pale, and so skinny. Your speech is helping me to watch my attitude. Here are things you did very effectively in your speech. You had 4 different people in your speech, including you, your dad, your aunt, and your brother. With your brother, I noticed the pace changed as you were talking to him, as he was talking. I really enjoyed the pitch and the pace change you used with your aunt. That I felt that was very effective. And with your dad also. I felt this was a master class for us, how to have different kind of dialogues when you have so many different characters in our speeches. The second thing I really enjoyed was the emotions which you are trying to share with us through your vocal variety. As you were going through your speech, I could feel each and everything and also visualize how it would have been for you. So thank you for using your vocal variety so effectively so that we could connect with the emotions you were feeling inside. I feel you have used the 2 P's very effectively, the pace change and the pitch. But let's talk about pauses. When you said your dad was so fragile, so pale, so skinny, I felt you said it's too fast. Make it slow, so fragile, so pale, so skinny. It helps us to create that image in our head. When the mosquitoes were biting, you can just slap really fast. That would have created a very good impact, and it just releases that tension in the speech. So you had that opportunity. I think you can grab that. One suggestion I have, one thing I feel you can do effectively. Sometimes I had to slow down to enunciate the words precisely. Like for example, the word raised. When you were speaking, I felt you went too fast. So it took me a time to realize what did she say? So take your time to enunciate those words. To conclude, to make your speech more effective, use pauses very effectively. Create a dramatic effect by slapping on your hand when the mosquito is biting. Take your time to enunciate the words. The things which you did effectively was the usage of your pitch change and your pace when having a dialogue. I felt the emotions as you were speaking. That was felt through your vocal variety. The best thing about your speech is your message. Changing that attitude in our mind can be very helpful when we are caring for our parents. And I'm going to work on that. Thank you, Linda. Let me call upon Hazel.
Hey, Linda, what a great speech. And I was able to keep up with most just everything by watching your lips. That is such a great thing to be able to decipher challenging words. So I loved how you really began with the setting with your brother. We were very clear on what the situation was on the phone, that it was COVID times. Your dad had fallen, your brother saying, don't go, you could, get infected, you could get quarantined, there's a risk there. But then you took on that powerful daughter stance when he was home and he needed someone. You did not let anything hold you back. And you said he used to be powerful and now he's fragile and weak. And this is role reversal. This is time for me to step in as the powerful daughter and take care of him. And I can totally relate to that. And you showed us how there were some challenges. You went from doing your work online to having to do it on the phone with no Wi-Fi. And there were different pieces where you were making sacrifices to do that. And you were showing up as the powerful person. Your facial expressions, the little wrinkles in your nose, kind of having your nose bent out of shape, feeling frustrated. It was so visible. And that's wonderful that I felt it. And then how he was portrayed, you were like showing up, giving all of this, being all in, and he's being the difficult patient. I don't need you to do that for me. And then when the holiday came along, he gave you the long list and you followed directions and you went and got stuff. And then your brother got the accolades and you had this thought, he loves my brother more than me. That's the first time that I heard you say, I learned this lesson too late. Lesson I learned too late. And so I thought, okay, that's where the title comes in. And then you said, I'm going home tomorrow. I've given it I'm done. I tried. It's not worth it. And your aunt gave you that reset. And oftentimes when there's a lesson to be learned, it comes in from someone who is outside of us, some external hero. And I think this was a true to life illustration where she was able to give you a perspective shift. And then when you observed how others were interacting with your father, you saw they're still treating him like he's the powerful father he was instead of the invalid that he is. And that shift was very pivotal. So you said, he's physically weak, but he's still very strong. And when you treat that strong person respectfully and you ask his opinion and you get his feedback, then the relationship changes. And so that I felt like was the lesson that you learned too late. So when I can see where there was the lesson that you immediately took it to mean like, I'm the girl, he doesn't love me like he loves my brother. And then there was the shift in the lesson like, oh, he's not an invalid. He wants to be treated with respect as the strong person that he is. So we did miss a little bit at the end of your speech. You froze. And so then when you came back, you were saying, thank you, Toastmaster. So in between, I'm not sure if you said something about life lessons when you closed, but that would have been a good reinforcement to kind of clarify once again for us what the life lesson was. Now, in terms, you said, I followed his instructions just as I did 40 years ago. So even though you were the powerful daughter and the strong one in the equation, you kind of, maybe submission is the right word. You kind of, elevated him so that you could still be a support to him, but not make him feel like he was being parented or something. So I feel like having the title, Life Lessons I Learned Too Late, I think that maybe you could turn that title into something with more of a universal message. Like Abhijit said, he is able to relate to how when we shift our attitude and the way we engage with someone who's in a weakened state, maybe we get more buy-in from them in terms of their ability, and we maintain their dignity and their respect. So I think that could be a different message that you would use for your title rather than your kind of personalized perspective. Oh, I didn't realize until too late, but maybe something that's more like you could use even as a foundational phrase for dealing with people. And also because we missed that last little bit, I am curious, we have this whole concept of in sickness and in health. how your ongoing relationship has been with your father in terms of the big picture since you've had this pivotal shift in your ability to understand and engage on a more even platform. So that's what I have. I thought it was a lovely story and I appreciate you sharing it. I think it does have far-reaching impact. But again, I would look at what your message is in terms of a phrase so that we can take that with us.
Okay. Well, thank you to our evaluators. And now we will go to our round robin. Let me remove all the spotlights. There we go. And we'll have a 5-minute round robin now. Who would like to? Oh, Sneha, please.
Thank you. Well, after listening to other evaluations, I feel that Linda's title could be something like role reversal. And she might as well start the speech with, how would you feel when the tables turn on you? You know, because that is the role that we have taken. And just as our parents find it difficult to become a child, we find it difficult to become a parent as an adult and coach our parents as a child. So I think that something like that, the start or the foundational phrase can be like this. So it's just a suggestion.
Sneha. Who else? Karen King, please. Unmute yourself, dear.
I would like to hear your closing paragraph. No one's asked that question. Can you do that for us?
Yeah. The closing paragraph is like this. I changed my mind, my attitude towards him. I respected him. I asked his opinion and followed his instructions, just as I did 30 years ago. Treat your parents the way they want to be treated, not the way you want to treat them. That's a life lesson I learned not too late.
Thank you, Linda. That is wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Jaison, please unmute and thank you.
You do a wonderful job with your characters in your story, with how expressive you are with the characters. You really are very convincing as those different people. A beautiful job. Also, the way that you would position yourself did push that along as well. So you did a beautiful job in trying to utilize a virtual stage and how you positioned yourself. Interestingly enough, I just have a suggestion, only because since this was a story and because it was a very profound story, the thing that came to me was that the story could be broken into 3 different parts. For example, I think since basically this is about you eventually being able to have to take care of your father, I think you could start the story back even earlier when you're younger, when your father took care of you. So you have that contrast of seeing how he took care of you when you were younger, and then how you were to him when he was trying to take care of you, and then now the contrast when you get older of how you are to him. It would break up the story into how he raised you and now you're taking care of him. So it makes the story come full circle. And with that, you had this way of, when you were upset, you did being upset very, very well. It was very convincing when you were upset. And I think that could work as good transitions between the different parts, where maybe you're upset when you're younger, the kind of upset when you're older, and maybe the acceptance. Using that ability to show being upset to break the different parts so we can see that, okay, now this is the time of the story. Now this is the time of the story after COVID. Sometimes it was a different time, but I didn't feel the different time. So maybe a way to help us transition when you had this character that was upset, that could transition from one time to the next. But beautiful job with characters, wonderful story, and great message. It's a very profound thing to have to try to take care of your parents. And it's not a popular thing that people like to talk about, but it's such an important thing for people to hear, because it's our responsibility to do that. So thank you so much for the wonderful story.
Thank you, Jason. We're open for other comments. Yes, Judy? Oh, no, you were just applauding. Thank you. Okay. All right. We have something from Vivian, I think. Please unmute. There you go.
Thank you. Linda, straight from my heart, I'm Papa's girl, and you succeeded in making me cry. It is the saddest thing to see your king, your rescuer, your savior, as far as I was concerned, to see him weakening and becoming not the person that we once knew. So what I'd like you to do is to tell your story somewhat with an emotion of nostalgia, like you were talking about it to your niece or to a child. You know, when my brother came, he wasn't the same. Let your emotions come out. Do not memorize. How are you feeling? I know there were tears. Let the tears show in your voice. Best not to recite, but to make it a conversation. How would you tell it to a young child and say, you know, one day your Auntie Linda is also going to be very old? That kind of stuff. Because I know that was what was in your heart. I love your story. And I love you, Linda. Good job.
Okay, thank you very much, Vivian. And we are now going to go directly into our general evaluator, if we may, so that we can hear about our meeting. How did we do, Sandra?
Thank you so much, Elena. This meeting has been incredibly inspiring from all of our speakers all the way through the evaluation. So thank you so much for being here tonight and sharing with us from your heart, not only in each speech, but also the evaluators as well. I certainly learn a great deal every time at this meeting, at our club meeting. Well, the evaluators not only delivered inspiring evaluations, but they provided detailed and specific analytical information on what really reached them, what really worked well for them in the speeches, as well as the motivational aspect of encouraging the speakers to incorporate ways that will take their speech to even higher and even perhaps more meaningful levels to each of us in the audience. And thank you for giving us such rich detail tonight in your evaluations. Abhijit delivered the visual for Jaison's speech. Abhijit, I really appreciated that you said that you even felt the pain and that you talked about the gestures. You suggested an incredible prop, and thinking of professionally speaking and the last meeting we had where we learned a great deal about props from a professional magician. I thought the prop of a candle was brilliant suggestion, Abhijit. And Jaison, it would be so easy for you to just have that right inside your jacket pocket to easily have access to as you share the light, that you would be, or your mother was, the candle of light, the inspiration of light, and carrying your message forward. So thank you for that, Abhijit. We had Judy Stein spoke to the vocal evaluation. And Judy, again, you provided rich items of analytical feedback on what really worked well for you vocally. You gave some very specific recommendations, and then you came back and you clearly summarized. And it's these summarizations in all of these evaluations that really, I believe, help the speakers as well as each of us in the audience. So thank you for that. In the round robin, Hazel, you are incredibly analytical and specific, giving examples of everything that to illustrate everything that you shared. And Karen, I loved it that you sang a song. And as we often listen to speeches, and also there's a speechwriter for presidents who always suggests to incorporate some familiar piece of music, whether it's a speech title or the name, a song title, or even a lyric or phrase from a song that make it memorable. So that was a great suggestion, Karen. And Emmy, the alignment of vocal feelings to the face. Well done. Judith's speech, we had, let's see, Hazel for the pathway. Well, I love that you suggested, Hazel, to move more emphasis on to the vision for the future, giving Judith a great suggestion on how to further carry her message along, and then how relatable it was to everyone. Abhijit, you mentioned the prompt of the letter, and to be sure that gestures were on screen. Neha, the vocal, you asked for more vocal energy, and I loved how you called happiness as a spring in the void. So that was a nice allusion to that too. And Karen, you talked about the content, how inspiring to hear the journey was in Toastmasters was to you. And you asked for a definition of speechcraft. And this is a reminder to all of us that we need to focus on acronyms and definitions, even when we're experienced knowing those within Toastmasters. Elena talked about the content and developing that even further. And we had also more input from M.E. and Judy. And for Linda Wu's speech, Neha talked about the structure of the speech. And what I really liked, that what you pointed out, was that the sentences were short and understandable, as well as the enunciation for clarity among so many of us from around the world in understanding and communicating with each other. Emmy, you pointed out that the facial expressions conveyed emotion and were very strong. And Abhijit, I loved it that you called Linda's speech a master class in dialogue. That was memorable. And then there was Hazel, who talked about the fragility of the father, and then the strong daughter, and then the lesson too late was that reset of going back to that lesson learned. But Jaison, I especially loved your feedback to Linda. I'd like to encourage you to come back to our club anytime. I learned from you. It was wonderful hearing your feedback and ways that Linda could perhaps take her speech to a higher level by breaking it into 3 parts. And in reflection to that, I think perhaps Linda may have a contest speech with this message. So overall, it was a wonderful meeting. Our evaluators delivered exceptionally in all ways. And I'd like to turn the meeting back to Toastmaster Elena.
Thank you very much, Sandra, for your general evaluation. And because we are looking like we're running out the clock tonight, I am going to thank everybody for coming. Again, in my Star Wars hat on, I'm not at Nerd Masters tonight, but that doesn't matter. May the 4th be with you. And now I will hand things back over to our president, Abhijit Joshi to wrap things up.
Thank you so much, Elena. Thank you for being our Toastmaster and doing a phenomenal job. We really appreciate you. Jason, how was your experience, sir?
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Very, very helpful. As I've been standing here, I've been just like mentally implementing the feedback. So, because I love implementing feedback. So I smile with myself. Okay, maybe I can put that right here and do this. Enjoyed this very much. It's a very full experience dimensionally with how you try to help people to become better speakers and better writers too at the same time. You just really do a wonderful job. It's a great day.
Great to have you, Jason. Hope you can come back again. Ollie, how was your experience, Ollie?
Hey, is that me you talking to?
Yes, yes.
Hey, thanks. I popped in a bit late. I was visiting a couple different clubs tonight, but I was glad I got to hear one of the speeches and all the evaluations. That's what I came to hear. They were really good. I had been around the country and around the world this past contest season doing a lot of judging, and I heard some fantastic evaluations in all the different places. So when I heard about what you guys were doing, I was like, I gotta go listen and see what they got going on. Could it be as good as some of the ones I've heard? You know, the best evals I've heard around the world. And there were some really good ones tonight. I listened and I went, that's a really good point. That's a really good thing. That's a really good eval. So you have some amazing people here that are listening, not just making the same points over and over, but really giving what each speech needs. And that's what makes a great evaluator. And that's what makes people come back over and over, is when they hear those things that help them build and learn. So thanks for letting me come tonight.
Hope to see you again, Ollie. Great to have you. Hi, Vivian. How was your experience?
You made me cry. Yeah, really, I came late today, and well, there's no mistakes in the universe. Perhaps it was a message for me. And always you hear me say this: before you deliver your speech, record it on audio. If it's credible on audio, I promise you, you will touch the heart. Only then do you go to the gestures. You gotta start with a voice tone. Even if you have the right gestures, if the voice is not credible, because you know how that goes, right? So you gotta work on the voice straight from there. So I love it as always. Your stories and your evaluations are just something else. It's amazing. Not to flatter you. Awesome. I'm running out of adjectives and adverbs.
Thank you so much, Vivian. It's always great to have you. We'll have a special coming up in 2 weeks. Linda, you want to give some update on that? Linda Wu? We have the second place winner of the World Championship from 2022 coming and giving us a session. His name is Alexon. So he's going to come here and give us a workshop. So please join us in 2 weeks, same time, 6:30, same link. We always use the same link. And also I have put in the chat registration for the upcoming conference. There are some good sessions going on. We have 2 world champions talking. So please come back and listen to them. See you in 2 weeks. Thank you so much. This meeting is adjourned.
All right.